The first topic of the show is going to be about the Phoenix Suns matching DeAndre Ayton's offer sheet of $133 million, gave him a max pretty much. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it was smart on the Suns' part to match the offer sheet? Do you think that too little too late, they already basically ruined the relationship with Ayton? What are your thoughts on this and what it means for the Suns' championship aspirations this season? I'll start with you, Drew.
So DeAndre Ayton, going back to the Suns, I can't say that I'm upset that the Suns are doing this. I feel like what other option did they have, really? You lose JaVale McGee in free agency. DeAndre Ayton knows how to play that role. Yes, he's been a little bit underwhelming. We saw that in the playoffs, unfortunately. But even still, this is a double-double machine. You can't lose that in free agency. And for that price, 4 years, 133, I'm more than okay with it. The Suns clearly are in a position where they need the best available lineup to put on the court to compete with teams like the Warriors, to compete with teams like the Dallas Mavericks, the Nuggets, and the Clippers, who are going to be back and healthy this season, who are a lot of people's teams to win the championship right now. I think that you bring back Ayton, you try to run it back one more time, and for that price, listen, 4 years, 133 for the number one overall pick, who yes, he's not as great or not as good as you would want if you're the Phoenix Suns, given the fact that you missed on Luka, you missed on Trae Young. But DeAndre Ayton does a job. He can do it a little bit better, and I think that with a little bit more motivation, DeAndre Ayton's going to be fine.
I guess I'll go next.
You know what? Just so we don't have these like awkward pause and interruptions, let's just do it like we do it on the show. So, Riv, you go. Drew, you go. HP, you go.
That works. I'm cool with that. For the first time ever. I was shocked. I think it's because I'm in the top right box.
The reason is because on my screen, you're on the bottom right. Yep. So I'm looking directly at you.
Yeah, you're right next to me. So Drew's like all the way at the bottom. Okay, cool. I think it was a little bit of both. I think at this point, you kind of you couldn't just let him walk. You know, he's the number one pick. He may have been a little bit underwhelming, but you can't let him walk for nothing. I think with this team you have right now, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, and Devin Booker, you still have a chance to be a competitive playoff team. And that's what you want to keep relevant in this situation. Devin Booker being young, Chris Paul aging, but still being, a relative star. I think at this point you had to bring him in. You couldn't just let him go to Indiana. Now, on the flip side, he's been disgruntled for maybe a year, I want to say. He's been pretty upset with his role. He's been pretty upset with the fact that they didn't want to pay him. So I guess in the end, he got his money, but I feel like he wanted a new environment. So now how is he going to play next season being in a place he really doesn't want to be? I don't know. That's tough to sell, but I still think he's a good player. I still think he has room to grow. He was underwhelming against Dallas, but that was against Luka. Luka makes everybody look underwhelming at the same time.
100%.
So I ain't going to knock him for that, but offensively, he does need to be more aggressive. They need to feed him into the offense a little bit more, and he needs to get better as a basketball player. But I think Phoenix did the right thing. They had the match. They matched it pretty quick, actually. So they needed to do this because they couldn't just let him walk for nothing.
I think that it was definitely a good thing for Phoenix to go ahead and match the offer. I think a lot of people talk bad about DeAndre Ayton and everything, but the way I look at it is how many legitimate 7-foot plus centers could you name in the NBA that have post moves, that can hit their free throws, that block shots, and that will play the majority of the season? There's not that many that you can name. Ayton provides a lot of things, but it's seen as less than because of the age of basketball we're in as far as guards and wings being at a premium. He still averaged 17 and 10 during the season. I think during the playoffs, he was around 17 and 8. So, he did drop a little bit with his minutes going up slightly in the playoffs. But I think, to your point, he wants to be in a better role. And I think that Phoenix has to find a better way of getting him involved in the role because Chris Paul is getting older. Bridges, Cam Johnson, guys like that, they're still really just spot up 3-point shooters and guys who are going to get out in transition. And Devin Booker, while he is a really good one-on-one scorer, he is going to need easier buckets to come for him and for that organization. So I think that it was great that they matched it. I don't think that they could have done anything better, to y'all's point. But what I will say is I do believe that y'all have hurt the relationship to no repair long-term. The fact that y'all didn't go ahead and give him his extension last year when he should have gotten it. You had Chris Paul get on TV and say, we're going to get this guy paid, and it didn't happen right away. And now we're at the point where I got to go and basically fight and get my money by signing with somebody else and forcing y'all's hand. It makes it to where it doesn't feel like y'all really wanted me and y'all are just doing this now because you can't let me go. So long term, I'm not sure how this is going to look, but in the short term, I think this definitely makes Phoenix a lot better, but they're going to have a lot of decisions to make in the next couple of years.
You guys make a lot of good points. Deandre Ayton, $133 million, max contract, basically getting paid $33 million a year. He's now the 5th highest paid center in the league. Now, is that an overpay? I don't think so, because he's a top 7 center in the league. You have Jokic.
Well, oh, okay. He was going to name him. Sorry.
You have Jokic, Embiid, Cat, Gobert, Bam. Jared Allen, I think, is better than DeAndre, and I think he's a significantly better defender than him. And that's why I put him over. 7 is DeAndre Ayton, and after that, at 8, I have Kristaps Porzingis. And then I have Clint Capella at 9, Jonas Valanciunas at 10. So because of that, Miles Turner, I don't know where I rank him. I quite frankly don't have an interest in ranking him because he never plays. And really, the Suns never were interested in a sign and trade. That's why they matched the offer. They didn't want Miles Turner back. The only person they wanted was Kevin Durant. And with them matching this offer sheet, they cannot trade for Kevin Durant anymore until January 15th, if he's even available. So this takes the Suns out of the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. I know some Suns reporters are still trying to sprue up that narrative, but it's gone. It's done. It's over with. He's not going to Phoenix. We'll see where he ends up now. DeAndre Ayton is a good player. He does have to get better. He does have to now take on that role of being the second option. Chris Paul's getting older. DeAndre Ayton has to become an all-star for this contract to be worth it. It's as simple as that. And to the point of you when you talked about how the relationship is beyond repair, maybe that's true. Maybe Ayton is disgruntled, but this may come across as a bit too harsh. Who cares? You just got paid $133 million. Who cares who you have issues with? Who cares who you don't get along with? Who cares that they didn't pay you last year? They paid you now. You have to perform. It's as simple as that. And I don't want his statistics to be lower and him blame it on it's because I don't want to give my all to the team. And this leads me to theorize that last year when Monty Williams benched him in Game 7 in the second round versus the Mavericks, and he said that it was an internal thing, maybe that was because Monty Williams recognized that the Suns were getting blown out, and he didn't want DeAndre Ayton out there and get hurt and now not get that money that he just got this offseason. So that can very well be a scenario as well. I'm kind of annoyed the Suns did match it, though, because I wanted to see him in Indiana. I think Indiana's building a very young, solid young core. Tyrese Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin, you have Chris Duarte there, Andrew Nembhard, Kendall Brown, Isaiah Jackson, Jalen Smith, DeAndre Ayton. If the Pacers would have successfully gotten DeAndre Ayton, they would have had Tyrese, Jalen Smith, DeAndre Ayton, 3 of those players that 2 should still be on Phoenix with DeAndre and Jalen Smith, and 1 in Tyrese, who they should have drafted. It would have been a pretty a funny thing if that were to happen, but I think it's good. As for like championship aspirations, I think the Suns are still pretenders. I don't view them as a real threat in the West anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
If Riv, I don't know. I feel like you give me that look, and I feel like you got something devious to say. But
I want to know your take because you were very high on Phoenix. Like last year, you were extremely high.
Listen, I mean,
about the West. So I want to know what's your thoughts on it. You know?
Yeah, no, sue me for them being the best team in the National Basketball Association
Actually,
for the entirety of the year, and they ended up being frauds. Listen, I'm not here gonna sugarcoat anything.
Utah did it the year before, bro. So don't feel
that's facts. That's facts. But Utah didn't go to the finals last year.
And you picked Utah to make the Western Conference Finals, Riv.
Yeah,
yeah.
Don't come crazy.
I saw the video yesterday.
No, I never. I always say I say it. I said it in like January or February or something.
I know, but I'm just saying I saw the video yesterday.
Yeah, of course you did.
No, it just came across my feed, and I happened to tune into it for a
Yeah,
short
a
while.
video in January across your feed, and you happen to tune into it.
It's actually been happening more recently, believe it or not. People,
Did the Knicks third seed one? Did that pop up? Did you rewatch
You know what?
that
Yeah,
one?
guys, let me stop this right here.
from
We do
last
this
year.
way too often where we bash each other's old takes. Come on, the show just started. Let's relax. Let's talk about DeAndre Ayton for a quick second. Joel, I agree with you. You just got 133 million. The relationship right now should not be one that I'm worrying about if I'm DeAndre Ayton, because realistically, they didn't have to match, right? They could have let me walk
But
if they really didn't
they
think.
did though.
But my
Think about
point
it.
being is, if they didn't think that he was like that, they could have just let him walk and not paid him that money.
But think
They
about
couldn't
it.
let
Like,
him work for nothing.
put yourself in think about it. Put yourself in his shoes. They didn't give you an offer. They realistically, technically, they didn't like they matched the offer somebody else gave you. So somebody had to give you that money, and they were put in a situation where like we really can't lose him because we don't get nothing. So we have to pay you. It wasn't like now we want to pay this. No, we have to pay you. So it's like they didn't really want to do it. So I understand the 133. It's a lot of money. I understand that. This is a lot of money. But like he's in a situation where it's like they didn't really want you, bro. You kind of got it was a matched offer that they had to do. They were forced into a situation. They had to make that option. Your team felt like you deserved the money, but the front office doesn't. That's just a little funny.
I mean, to a degree. Go ahead, HP.
I'll say, but not only that though, it kind of comes back around to what I originally said too, which is how many 7 foot plus centers. Because I mean, Jokic plays center, but he's not really 7 foot in my opinion. You know, how many 7 foot plus centers do you know that you can really sit down and look at and say, okay, if all else fails, this guy has post moves. He can stretch the floor as far as hitting the mid range. He's going to hit his free throws, and he will play the majority of the year. And that's kind of how you have to look at it sometimes, because this, to me, is no different than when the first, a few years back when the cap had gotten bigger in the NBA. And a lot of people were saying, wow, Otto Porter really got paid $109 million with the Washington Wizards. It's not necessarily he maybe deserved that, more so than how many 6'8" guys do you know who can shoot threes and play defense. And it's kind of the same way with DeAndre Ayton. There's not that many 7-footers that you can really name that does what he does, even if you see it to be underwhelming at times. The problem is that Phoenix's offense doesn't really involve him, which leads me to the next question I was going to have for you guys is, if he underperforms throughout this 4-year contract, how much of it will you blame on him not getting better and Monty Williams not more so involving him in the offense?
I think, for me personally, I think Monty Williams is a great coach. So if he senses that DeAndre Ayton is getting better, I think he will involve him in the offense more. But if he does, like, I'm obviously that question is more of like an eye test. You have to watch and see if he does happen to get better. But realistically, if he doesn't make an All-Star game, and it has to be like a 50-50 thing, the front office and him, because sometimes players force themselves into a position like, yo, I'm getting better, get me the ball. And coaches are like, all right, now we got to give him the ball. So it's like a 50-50 thing for me.
But it's also, go ahead, HP.
I'm sorry, but at the same time, what I look at with that still is, you can say, well, I could force my way and say, well, look, I'm just getting better, give me the ball. But at the same time, yo, you still are next to Devin Booker and Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson.
Yeah, but Bridges is we know what Bridges is.
It's tough when you have Devin Booker, who obviously is going to get majority of the offensive load. But then you also have CP3. Having a big three, it's tough to feed every mouth. It really is. But now that CP3, we're starting to see, so unfortunately, that his play is starting to decline. Now there's going to be more room for opportunity for DeAndre. And I do firmly believe that over these next 4 years, we'll start to see him incorporate a little bit more.